America is a country made up of a large number of cultures and races, and each of these cultures and races reside in certain areas of the country. Within each region of the country, there is a specific dialect, even though within the dialect there are different variations. Southern American English is the dialect in the states of Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Georgia, Florida, and a few other remaining southern states. There are a few specific characteristics that make this dialect specific to this region. One common characteristic that has been known for a while but is slowly disintegrating is the deletion of the post-vocalic R. Many adults now still use it, but as children are becoming more educated and they're altering their speech and their dialect based on how other people speak, it's not as prevalent. For example, the older generation will say ka instead of car, and cawed instead of cord, and for sure they do sh, they delete the R also. But like I said, as more people are becoming educated, they're tending to not delete the post-vocalic R. Another characteristic is in the past, people would pronounce the oo sound as with the Y also connected, so the U. And that would be following an alveolar consonant, which would be the T, D, or the N. But anymore, they typically are just not third. One other vowel characteristic is that they would normally add the short I, would be the E sound before the U. So for example, they would do tu instead of tu, and new instead of new. And even though the Y before the U sound is not really as prevalent anymore, this is still present in the South.
Okay. One common vowel characteristic of Southern American English is monophthongization, which is when a diphthong is produced as a monophthong. So the diphthong oi would be simplified just to an all sound, and it's often lengthened before the L sound. So an example of this would be foil, would be produced as fall instead of, there's no diphthong. This also happens in the diphthong I, which will just be reduced to an ah sound, so fire becomes far. And the S sound is also raised and articulated as which is when it is produced before the nasal N. So in this way, the I and S sound merge, so words like pen and pin they both have those sounds, so they're both pronounced as pin. And the same thing happens in sense, which is the S sound, and since, which would be the I sound, and they are merged, so they both are pronounced as sins. Commonly throughout the United States, there's a merge of the ah sound and ah sound, but in Southern American English, this doesn't happen, and the ah sound is really pronounced, and it's seen in words such as gone, slaughter, and caught. Also, a characteristic of American English is Mary, Mary, and marry are all pronounced very similarly or the same way. But in Southern English, the A sound and merge so that Mary and Mary are both pronounced as Mary, but the A sound of Mary remains distinct. And this is most commonly seen in Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Virginia. And a final characteristic of vowels is the deverticization. So this is when the typical R-colored vowels like ear, R, they lose their R coloring in rhotic diphthongs. And a lot of times the schwa replaces the R sound, so that door becomes do, there's just no R at the end. When the post-vocalic R is deleted, then the R of the stressed and unstressed sound is often de-rhoticized, and the central vowels are lengthened. So terse, if there's a deverticization, there's no R in the sound, and the is just lengthened, so it's like terse. Also, the schwa in post-vocalic and word final position is often replacing the R, so that others would be pronounced as others. And that's it.
Eastern American English is spoken by individuals in the New England states, New York, New Jersey, and eastern Pennsylvania. Specific regions and cities have distinct articulation patterns. Individuals in Boston may exhibit unique patterns compared to the other people who live in surrounding towns in Massachusetts. The nature of Eastern regional dialects is varied. Unlike the South American English, Eastern American English does not merge vowels. Take the words marry, merry, and marry. As Becca stated, Southern English merges these vowels, but in regions of New England and then in Philadelphia and New York City, there's very distinct productions of each word, so they don't merge. Another characteristic of Eastern American English is the backing of a or ah before fricative or nasals. So for example, instead of saying the word half, they say half. So it's like a longer A.
Another characteristic in areas of eastern New England, including Maine, New Hampshire, and eastern Massachusetts, is the fronting of a or ah, which would result in the word moth being pronounced as moth. And older speakers in the New England area tend to substitute the for oo, so instead of saying room, they would say room. And it is common in Boston, specifically, the deletion of the post-vocalic R, even though it is much more prevalent in the East than in the South. We all know when people from Boston say ka instead of saying car, and in that they delete the R and they front the vowel ah to ah. And in New England and the New York City metropolitan area, they also delete the R, but they add in the schwa. So when they say chair, they say che. And they also tend to delete the post-vocalic R in central vowels, and And so instead of saying letter, they would say letta. And the rotization of the schwa to the schwar is also very common in the Eastern American English. So when you would say soda normally, they would say soder, or instead of idea, they would say idear.